sir. How you expect to be great, but your hustle don't match. Listen. I hustle over time, attempt to push the culture forward. This that real shit, make a meal with that little gift. Everybody on a hustle, we can make a real shift. So keep your head up, youngin', and just keep on moving. And if you ain't hustling, then I don't know what you doing. The time is now. I'm sorry, I'm not sorry. Yeah, I gotta write my story. No, you can't have my glory. I'm taking all that's for me. Unapologetic.
What's going on, my good people? It's your boy Marcus Stone, host of the Unapologetic Hustle, coming to you live from Globe Life Park. Man, look, I got to tell you, today's show is going to be a banger, man. When I say a banger, it is going to be a wealth of information. But first and foremost, we're going to get to what I now term, hustle for the streets. What it really is just additional. Hey, make sure that you register to vote. Voting deadline is fastly approaching, right? That is key for any change that we see and that we need to bring forward with anything that we're fighting for with regards to equality. Make sure you get out and vote, register to vote for yourself, but also bring somebody that is not registered to ensure that their voice and their voice matters and counts. So, if you missed it, last night I was a guest on my sister's show, talking with Tanya. We had some great dialogue, but today, my guest, man, when I say she has blazed the trail, and I don't even know where to begin with it, to be honest with you, but she's been known in the circuit of African people. She has pioneered this thing of DNA discovery, and I mean, when I say it's taken a life of its own, it has done just that. I am a family member of this, and I'm logging on all the time. But I want to bring in none other than my guest today, Dr. Gina Paige of African ancestry. Welcome to the Hustle, Dr. Paige.
Happy to be here. I'm ready. I'm ready to hustle.
You ready to hustle? That's what we're gonna talk about. We're gonna talk about the hustle and how this thing even began. Let's start there. Let's go back in time, and time travel and how did African ancestry come to be?
African ancestry is the dream of my business partner, who is an African American geneticist by the name of Dr. Rick Kittles. He wanted to know where he was from, so he'd been doing this research, studying African lineages. And in the late 90s, there was an African burial ground project in New York City. They were excavating the land to build a federal building in Lower Manhattan, and they came upon a cemetery of enslaved Africans. And so Dr. Kittles was part of the team from Howard University that went up to New York, and his responsibility was to determine the ancestry of the bones. Long story short, when the community found out that he could do it for bones, they inundated him with requests to do it for them. And that was the genesis of AfricanAncestry.com. That was 17 years, well, actually more than 17 years ago, but it was over 17 years ago. And so he and I partnered, and I was able to commercialize his research to make this DNA discovery, as you put it so eloquently, available for Black people around the world.
Yeah, I gotta say, Dr. Paige, I'm thankful for the connection that y'all two have made and brought to the forefront. Like I said, I'm a member of the family, proudly,
Yes, you are.
and we did my reveal on your page, and that was exciting, and I was like, everybody has to know about this thing, and I wanted to take the time to use my platform for that reason. So it started back over 17 years ago. So I mean, how have you seen the growth? How have you seen the evolution, and what are some of the challenges that you have faced over the course of that time frame?
much time do we have? No. Okay, so, well, listen. So when we started in 2003, there were two other companies doing this work for people in general, and they were not looking at Black folks. They did not care about Black folks. All they told Black folks was that you're African, and that wasn't, that doesn't work for us. We already know we're African. That's not the question. The question is, where in Africa do we come from? And so over the years, we've seen this whole thing take off, right? You can't turn on the television without seeing an ad from Ancestry.com or 23andMe,
right.
who started after we did and who were not interested in Black people until they saw our presence in the marketplace. And so that describes the evolution right there. In terms of challenges, there have been a lot of challenges from day one. There are internal challenges with the community, the Black community, and then there are external challenges from everybody else.
Right.
Internally, the challenge has been, what are you going to do with my DNA? 17 years ago, DNA testing was not as common as it is today. The only time we knew about it was that it put us in jail or got us out of jail, or things like the Henrietta Lacks experience or Tuskegee syphilis experiment. So just was really nothing positive.
Right.
That on top of us collectively, there's no major push for us to connect to Africa. So you've got to deal with people who are challenged by the use of DNA. You have to deal with people who don't believe they're African or don't think it's important to know where in Africa they come from. Those have been, and then because of the power of this information, Marcus, the external community just kept pushing on us, like, you have to prove that you can do this. You have to show us your database. All things that they would never demand of any other company. So there were a lot of assaults on Dr. Kittle's reputation as a scientist that we had to deal with as well.
Wow. I would have never imagined that, those obstacles would have been out there. But as you were talking about it, I can actually understand the importance of the drive behind why you continue to push to bring the story to the forefront. So my hats is off to you and Dr. Kittles. I wish, I know you can barely get him on, so I won't even attempt to get him to come on and explain some of the stuff. But yeah.
Well, we'll see what we can do. We'll try. There's another challenge that has arisen as of late, Marcus, that I think is a challenge that many businesses may face as they grow, depending on their industry. But now our challenge is, instead of saying who we are, we're being forced to say how we're different than the mainstream companies. And that bothers me.
Right.
If we don't get it, we have to force and mold the conversation to, here's who we are.
Right.
First and foremost. And I hate when I have to, my what do you call it? The very first question I get is, how are you different than everybody else? Well, no, let me tell you how they're different from us.
Right.
They don't set the standard for us. But unfortunately, because they have millions and millions of dollars to invest in advertising, and they don't have to return a profit after all these years, they have the freedom to control the conversation.
Absolutely. And that's understandable too. So I think, and with you saying that, then that should be part of our charge. We exist, and we've always existed first. We were, and I know you say it a lot, that we're the pioneers of African ancestry DNA and determining those differences. It's one thing to be first, and I think that is something that you should hold high in that regard, because you were a trendsetter. You blazed the trail that others have followed, and it's easy for individuals to come in and try to copy what you have put in place, but it speaks volumes to the work that you have already done and continue to do. So know that your following and your family, that as it continues to grow, is authentic, right? Because we see the authenticity in the work that you do, with the aspect of reconnecting. Again, since I found out where or a portion of of my DNA. I'm going to submit for the others as well. But finding out my maternal and paternal, that was life changing for me. My mother called me yesterday and she was like, "What were our tribes again? What was my tribes?" Like, you didn't take the test, I did, but but she was proud, nevertheless, to know that we found out where that lineage comes from, the actual tribes within the continent of Africa, which is amazing, and it's because of individuals like you and Dr. Kittles that provided that opportunity for us to reconnect, because so many things have stripped us of that to even be able to reach back. So that's big. So keep pushing, Dr. Paige. If that's any words of encouragement, know that you are on the right path for sure. And I'm going to stand with you and support you nevertheless. So.
Well, I have to say, I love it when we're doing our IG lives and the unapologetic hustle comes up. I always try to make sure I shout you out.
Yeah.
Because it's important. You all are our family. That's
absolutely.
A tongue twister. And that's why we do this. We don't do it for ourselves. We do it for everyone else. So thank you for all the support you've given us.
Absolutely. And what's crazy is that my mother, when I spoke with her last night, she was like, "Yeah, who you got on tomorrow? When are you speaking with the doctor?" And I'm like, that's tomorrow. She's like, "Yeah, because I heard her talking about she was gonna be on your show on." I'm like, "Oh, so you tuning in to Dr. Paige now?" I'm like, "Wow, here we go."
That's
so
funny.
We're reaching one and teaching one, but the family is growing nevertheless. But so. All right, this is what I stole from you, Dr. Paige. We're gonna get into these words. I'm only gonna give you 3, as you give everybody else. So I don't see anybody do this to you, but let me be the first.
I know, I'm scared now. Okay, let's do it.
Let's do it. So, legacy. Background. Okay. Hustle.
Making things happen.
Unapologetic.
Don't give a damn.
Absolutely.
You asked.
Hey, that's what it's for. And we got to be unapologetic about our growth and reaching back. So, the 17 years, right? So I don't want to pry too much, but where do you see, with the current state of everything going on right now, and everybody coming together and exercising their voice, where do you see African ancestry within, I guess, by the end of the year, next year, leading into next year? What do you see as the movement? Has there been any, or anybody voiced any concerns to you that you can talk about?
Well, that's a great question. I see us as an important tool for the movement. I believe that it starts with knowing who you are. You've heard me say this a million times, Marcus. We're the original victims of identity theft as Black folks.
Right.
And by default, that means we don't know who we are. Right. And that, in my opinion, is part of why we are in the position we're in. Because when you don't know who you are, when you don't know whose you are, when you don't know that rich heritage and legacy that you are a part of as a person from Africa, then you don't have a foundation. You're weak. And when the wind blows, you get blown this way. And if it blows this way, you get blown this way.
Right.
And so for me, my call is the same as it's always been. Know who you are. Remember who you are. And we are providing a tool in the toolkit of Black folks around the world to make that happen. So we are there. We're not out protesting. We're not necessarily, you don't hear me talking a lot about politics.
Right.
But we stand with everybody who is just as frustrated, just as pissed, just as concerned, and just as ready to make a difference in us getting to the other side of this pandemic. You know, it's funny. Wow, you didn't ask me this, but I'll just say quickly. Uh, it's funny because when the pandemic first started, I said to one of my friends, "Where's the outrage around the pandemic again of that we're experiencing?
Right,
Killing
right.
Black people is a pandemic."
Absolutely.
And that was going on long before COVID. We were experiencing our own pandemic. And so I'm excited that people who look like me are waking up and standing up and being unapologetic in their confrontation of the way we're being treated across all fronts in society today.
Absolutely. I mean, one thing that I've noticed is the the intentional questions to find out how to contribute and give back to the African culture. Right. There's always been individuals that were ingrained in the African studies, African arts, African clothing, whatever the case may be, taking trips. But the intentional conversations now that are being had in light of what is going on now, right? It only amplifies what people were starting to do anyway, but now it's even more so, right? Like your conversation the other day with Selah, she was like, I need to know. I'm tired of saying that I'm from Virginia and I'm not from Virginia. You know,
Yeah.
she,
Yeah.
that was big. You know, and for me it was always how Africa. We know Africa, but where? Where in Africa? You know, I can say I'm from Texas, but where in Texas? You know, it is the generalization is no longer acceptable. You know, we want to
Yeah.
know pinpoint to something to say that I belong to this, and to
And
find
Marcus, you know, that makes you people can relate to what you're saying even on a local level. So you're in
right.
Dallas, right? Or
Yep.
Dallas Fort Worth. I don't know how it is in DC, but think about like I'm here in DC. You know, it makes your identity is different if you're from Northeast
Right.
versus Northwest, or in
Right.
Houston, you know, if you're from this ward versus this ward, or
Right.
New York, if you're from Brooklyn or the Bronx, or if you're from South Bronx versus some other part in the Bronx. So we know that place is part of our identities.
Absolutely.
And we've had to latch on to the places that we're in without knowing the place that we're from. And now look how much stronger we are when we know the place that we're from.
Right, right. Because I proudly say it. I know now. My mom called me. She's like, "Where are we from again?" And I'm like, your what I got from you. I have the masa, mafa, and kotoko from Cameroon. What I got from my dad is the ateke from Gabon. So I'm like, I know now. I have something that I can research, I can learn, I can study. Understanding what those environments produce and contributed to my existence, right? So knowing what they're known for, the colors, colors. I told my wife before when I really started this journey was right before Black Panther came out. I wanted to have dashikis, but I was always afraid that I wouldn't wear the correct colors of my my lineage, right? And understanding
Right.
that colors play a key part in everything. And I never wanted to be approached and get questioned and couldn't be able to provide the necessary
Mhm.
answers to say, hey, this is what this means. This is what this is about. And I understand that. But now, because of your organization and your company, I can say where I am from and where my family originates from. Um, that for me in itself is life changing. Is powerful.
Nice.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's so important. For people who don't get it, because there are a lot of people who don't get it, right? There are
Right.
people even people who are pan Africanists, they don't want to take this test.
Wow.
And it doesn't mean knowing where you're from doesn't negate any other part of you necessarily.
Right.
This is what people have to understand. Identity is something that we create for ourselves, and it changes all the time. And so, just because I find out that I have a Nigerian lineage among the Hausa people or the Fulani people doesn't mean I can't still be proud of being from Chocolate City. It's just another part of who you are. And it's all the parts that make us so great. And so why not get access to as many of the parts as possible?
Right, right. To get the whole makeup. I like to say I'm understanding the robust uh, flavors of my gumbo, right? Because we all
Ah,
we all are a
yeah.
part of something, right? And gumbo was a lot of scraps and stuff that is made to taste good, right? So I am a part of that. So now that I have added additional flavors and seasonings because of your organization, I'm only enhancing what flavor I bring to the world, what flavor I bring to my community.
And you get to take out the sausage if you decide you don't want
If I
to
don't
eat
want it,
pork
right?
anymore, or if you're not feeling like shrimp, you don't have to put the
I don't
shrimp
have.
in there. You have the luxury of that creating what you want. I love that analogy.
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, I had to. You always get on me about my culinary side, so I had to show you the culinary analogy that I have. That's the first time anybody's heard it, but it's been there. It's been there. So for those of you just tuning in, man, this is I'm your host Marcus Stone, host of the Unapologetic Hustle, man. We're coming to you live from Globe Life Park, powered by Fishbowl Radio Network. My guest today is none other than the incomparable Dr. Gina Paige of African ancestry. If you have not heard of it, please reach out, Google, follow her on Instagram, Facebook, but also go to the website to see what African ancestry is about. Um, it provides answers to many of us that are in search for that identity. So make sure that you check it out and provide any feedback that we can to continue to push forward with the cause. But I have some guests in the studio, and Dr. Page, we got a question for you. So I'm gonna let them come with that question for you right here.
Okay.
How you doing, Dr. Page?
I'm black and proud. That's my answer. I'm
I
black and
hear you.
proud.
I hear you. So I'm Marcus Landry. You got Marcus squared in the studio. So,
Okay.
so I don't know if I don't really have a question, but more of a experience that I wanted to share that relates to what you're talking about. So a while back, I got into trying to find out where I came from, what I was, my history, my antecedents, and I got so far. I was able to trace back to like 1839, and that was it. And after that, it was a complete black hole. Knew nothing else, and when I checked the records, it's slave records or military records that you might find, and names are a little twisted, and sometimes you have to talk to parents or grandparents who are still alive to try to make some of those connections.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of that search, I still didn't know anything more than I started with at the beginning, right?
Right.
So it seems like what you provide will give us that missing link, that connection back to who we are. The U.S. is almost 250 years old. When I travel, there's families that can go back 500 years
Right.
and say where they come from, and they know who they are. They're rooted. They understand what that is, and I think what you provide gives us another piece to that. So
Absolutely.
thank you for what you're doing.
Oh, thank you for sharing that. You've gotten back pretty far because we weren't even recorded as people, as human beings in a census until 1870. So you were able to get back farther than most black people when they're doing their research. And as you pointed out, African ancestry then becomes the bridge from wherever your research on that branch of the tree stops to where that lineage was before the transatlantic slave trade, before Virginia or Alabama or Cuba or Haiti or Brazil or wherever.
Yeah, that's big for sure. Again, for those of you just tuning in, this is your host Marcus Stone, host of the Unapologetic Hustle. My guest today is none other than Dr. Gina Paige, and we're talking about African ancestry DNA, how you can make that journey back to find out where you are actually from genetically, right? So we're gonna Dr. Paige. I gotta highlight one of my previous guests. So we're gonna take a quick break.
Okay.
My previous guest, Levi Jones, he has his project called The Launch Season, and every Friday he releases a new track. So we're gonna go ahead and play that track real quick, and we'll be right back. Mic's off.
Country and top.
Try to spot the one for me, then realize all of them mine. Glance at my watch, can't help but feel I run out of time. Plus I'm getting older and I know my mama retired. Some gotta shake like Parkinson's. I see the signs that give me just a little bit more faith that I require.
Okay.
I require you quiet.
It has to be funky.
Make it feel something special from every single note. See, I put my heart and soul into every word that I wrote. Y'all been consuming crack.
Look at me dictating what the gift has to look like.
Something sweet soul. After a while, that rah-rah shit gotta get old. I'm here to show my nephews with effort they can be more. The bronze skin that you in is way more than gold. Positive vibe causing all of these ties, yeah. Watching wavy water washing over these lives, yeah. My vision high, turn levitation to enterprise. I can't be denied why, cause this is the golden year 25.
I'll figure it out.
25 questions, 25 fears, 25 answers.
So where do you do your show from? Are you in a studio? Oh, okay. That's what you're saying, talking about. Oh, I gladly. Are you in Dallas? I can't ever remember because I feel like you always say Dallas, Fort Worth. Okay. Because my cousin lives in Dallas.
But the one that sticks out and would never get her replaced. She ain't cheering from the sideline. She on the track with me running the race. 19, I was living pimp dreams. 18, I wanted so many women on my roster. I could feel like 16.
You guys have good food in Dallas. Oh, we've already had this conversation.
I got all pieces coming from my 16, 50 miles away. Guaranteed I get this swiftly.
Yeah, you have really good food there.
I got 13 reasons why not to let my dreams die. 12 try to keep it slow, so I let my dreams fly. Feel like I just won one, so I lift my ring high. Stay blessed like I keep on sneezing in the springtime. 10 levels to get it, and I'm winning on cloud 9. I ate 7 tracks, you can get full from my lines. 6 in the morning and still rapping my ass off. Keep sleeping on me, and I promise to pass y'all. Gotta reach the end, can't afford to slack off. And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, I blast off like 25 questions, 25 fears, 25 answers. For 25 years, hold on, don't let go. Don't let go. Almost there to the light. Don't let go. Don't let go. Sit back and enjoy the ride.
Hey man, it's your boy Marcus Stone, host of the Unapologetic Hustle, man. We're coming to you live from Globe Life Park in Arlington, Texas, powered by Fishbowl Radio Network. The song that you just heard was my previous guest, Levi Jones, and his latest project from the launch season. Make sure that you go in and follow and support this young brother that is putting his heart and soul into his music for a positive change. So again, Levi Jones Music on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. But my guest today is none other than Dr. Gina Paige of African Ancestry, president and co-founder. And we're just talking about the journey of African ancestry, the importance of it in the community, the direction that it's going in, and where how it plays a role in today's current situation. So, Dr. Paige, before we even get back to the discussion, I just got to say I really appreciate you, coming on the platform and providing this opportunity. It means the world to me to be able to speak to someone of your caliber with regards to what you have done and what you're doing for the African community. It is special, and it's a moment I will cherish forever for sure. So.
Oh my goodness, thank you. I'm so happy to be here. As you know, I was telling people all week. So you're part of the family, and you support us, and I support you. It's just that simple.
Absolutely. So let's get back to it. So I kind of want to get into how, not necessarily how the databases came to be, but where, as far as the growth, because I understand that there are certain communities that we haven't been able to get samples and stuff from as of yet. But what does that look like, and how can the African Ancestry family assist with getting those necessary pieces of information so that we can strengthen the database?
Yeah. So thank you for that. What you're referring to is the African Lineage Database. This is the largest database in the world of indigenous African lineages. So if you think about it, DNA from Africans across the continent. And it took 10 to 12 years for Dr. Kittles to compile all of those samples. We have over 33,000 samples, and we don't have every country. We have 40 countries from across the continent, but what we do have is every West and Central African country. Wow. We do have the populations that contributed to the transatlantic slave trade. And that's important because what we did was we took your DNA and then looked for matching DNA within that database. So you want to have as many samples as possible to get the closest matches that you can. And so the way to increase that database is for us to work with African populations and get them to take a test to have their data included in the database. Right. And so as the world opens up, that's definitely going to be at the top of our list. As you know, Marcus, we had African Ancestry family reunions planned, which are trips to the countries with African Ancestry family members. And so that was going to be our way of starting to build the database. So any connections that the family has with leaders, communities on the ground on the continent would be helpful for us.
Absolutely. I'm going to do my part. I'm not afraid to ask anybody for some information. So I'm gonna know somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody. So we're gonna strengthen this database, nice. Nevertheless. Yeah, go ahead.
So I have a question for you. Anytime y'all got any results that were surprising or something that didn't go as expected?
Well, Marcus, that happens because that happens almost every day. So one thing to be clear about what we do is we look at one branch of the family tree, mother to mother to mother on back, or father to father to father on back. One branch of the tree, you never know where it's going to end up. There's no guarantee that out of your entire genetic family tree that we're going to find the African branch. And so there are a lot of surprises for people when the results are not African. Right. They are usually upset when the result is European, not African. They're usually happy when the result is Native American, not African. Only one time in 17 years have I had the personal experience of talking to someone whose ancestry, and this is probably the most surprising, whose ancestry was African. She was upset because the result was African.
Wow.
And so I had to talk to her about that. And what it was a paternal line. So she was tracing a father line.
Right.
And she was using a male cousin, someone who they thought was a cousin on that line.
Wow.
Well, her genealogy work for the Marcus who asked the question, her genealogy work said that paternal line descended from the slave owner. So she expected the result to be European. So now she has 30 years of genealogy research that we have said isn't correct because this cousin's result came back African. So what that meant was either her research was wrong or that cousin wasn't a biological cousin.
Yeah.
In either case, it shook her family framework in some way. So I think that was the most surprising because we were like, who gets upset when the result is African?
Well, you understand there's a lot of emotion tied to the history, right? So,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
A lot of times the facts and data line up and it doesn't align with the emotional expectations, so you just have to.
Or what we were taught that we were,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
That's the you have an image of yourself that, hey, I'm this, and then it doesn't come back. So the emotion factor is definitely key with regards to all of that. So yeah, I can see. That's
but what's
surprising,
important about that, Marcus, is that look, my best friend's name is Gina, so I go through this all the time. What's important about that for the two of you is that when we get a result that says it's something other than what you expected, people tend to internalize that as I'm not African.
Right.
That I'm not African American. And what we have to remember is that none of us here on this continent is 100% African. We're all mixed. That's just history. And so when you only look at one part, that one part does not define who you are in your entirety.
Right. So Dr. Paige, I'm going to I'm gonna order two more kits. I am, and I'm testing the maternal side of my father. Because I already have his. That I got the paternal, so I want to know where my grandmother, where that ties, and then I also want to get the paternal side from my mother, to see where that leads. And get the complete makeup, I guess, that, as you would say, for a generation, right? So that's next. So we may have to do a special reveal on Unapologetic Hustle, and I'll let you have those results for that one.
I'd love to do that. And Marcus, I'd love to give your followers a gift if I could. Do you accept gifts?
Absolutely.
So I'm going to set up a coupon code for $25 off. It's going to be Hustle. And so anybody who uses the code Hustle will get $25 off.
Awesome. I will send that out for sure. So again, those of you who are tuning in, hey, this is your boy Marcus Stone, host of the Unapologetic Hustle. I'm speaking with my guest, Dr. Gina Paige of African ancestry. And if you want to know about your lineage and your DNA and the tribes that you may come from with amongst the continent of Africa, make sure that you visit AfricanAncestry.com and use the coupon code HUSTLE to get your kit. Order your kit. Get a family pack. You can get a Matric Clan kit, a Patrick Clan kit, whatever it is. But make sure that you order so that you can find out where your lineage is from and make that connection to move forward. So, Dr. Paige, no, that is awesome. That is a blessing. So, wow. Wow.
This is how we do. We have to recycle our dollars. We have to support our businesses. And you are helping spread the word about
Absolutely.
African ancestry. And it's the least I can do to offer something to encourage your listeners to join the family.
Absolutely. So don't let me down, family hustle members. So let's go and grow the family, and let's get these kids and find out where we are. We may be we're more closely related when we find out where our blood comes from. So you never know. We probably have cousins all along, and you just thought you were friends, but we're related. So yeah, go ahead with your question.
So, Dr. Paige, got me interested. So, I'm kind of a cheapskate. So, if I got my son to do it opposed to me, do I get like a benefit of 2 for 1? Because or just I'm doing the math of it, right?
So, and I think I can answer that one, Dr. Page. So
Okay.
you only
Let's see
need
what you got.
you only need one,
Okay.
right? Because you're using your son. So, if you're looking to get, say, trace your father's side,
Right.
you have the same Y chromosome, right, Dr. Page, to where
Right.
it is traced back. So it'll be father to father to father to father. So regardless if you take it or he takes it, it will be the same chromosome going back.
Right.
So the variance will be as it relates to
The
the
mom
mom
side.
side.
Right. Right.
Right. So you'd each need to do one for your mother's side. But the important thing to recognize is that no, how old is your son?
16.
Okay. Well, it could be a great experience to have him take the test.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, if he's already studied biology in high school yet or what, but he can be an active participant in using his own DNA to provide an answer for the family. So I would encourage you, if it actually, here's what I would encourage, Marcus. I say start with the mother's line.
Mm-hmm.
And here's why. When we trace the mother's line, mother to mother to mother, those results come back African 92% of the time.
Mm-hmm.
But when we trace the father's line, father to father to father, they only come back African 65% of the time. The other 34, 35% of the time is European. And for many people, that's disappointing. And so I say start with the maternal line because then you have the best chance of having an African result. As long as as long as you don't know of a white woman or your mother's line. So now if you, Marcus, take the test, the result will still apply to your son because it'll be his grandmother, but his maternal result will be different than yours. So you would need 2 tests.
Got it.
And you just got a discount on any test you order. So there you go.
And I'm going to use it. As a matter of
But
fact,
you also, you can get family members to chip in. So if you have brothers and sisters, you all can all go in. It'll be the same for your cousins. If they chip in, your aunts and uncles, all these people in the family will share the same results. So, and we also offer Affirm as a payment option. So there are lots of ways to get it done.
and my son is in the studio now. He's listening, so he's absorbing.
Ooh. All right, son. I think you should do it and then share it with your friends.
Yeah.
Do you have, in your communities, a lot of us in our communities have African friends, African colleagues, and I don't know about you all, but it's something to hear them talk about their families, their traditions, their legacy that they come from, and we don't have that same type of connection to our past. And so it really helps you to relate more easily in a new and tangible way with the African community that you may already be a part of.
Yeah, absolutely. So, hey, for those of you just tuning in, this is the Unapologetic Hustle. I'm your host, Marcus Stone. We're powered by Fishbowl Radio Network, coming to you live from Globe Life Park in Arlington, Texas. My guest today is none other than Dr. Gina Paige, co-founder and president of African Ancestry, and she just blessed us with a gift. So for any of my followers and listeners, if you are interested in finding out what your lineage is as far as it relates to African ancestry, go to her website, AfricanAncestry.com, order your kit, and use the code HUSTLE. All right, use the code HUSTLE to get your $25 off of your kit. That's big. I always talk about be the change you want to see in your community, but in order to do that, we got to know where we come from. in order to go forward. So bless us, bless the community, and order your kit so we can continue to strengthen together and be that change. Dr. Paige.
Marcus, can I add something real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
So listen, I know some of your listeners are like, DNA, I'm not trying to do it. Y'all not going to take my DNA. Y'all not going to sell my DNA to the government or to the police. And you're right, we're not. We don't do that. We're the only company out here that does not sell or share our customers' personal or genetic information. We determine your ancestry, and then the DNA is destroyed. We are in the business of building you up through your identity connection and reconnection. We do not use your DNA for anything else.
Absolutely.
I just want to make that clear.
Yeah, no doubt that is something, because that is one of the questions that a lot of people ask, and I'm glad that you reassure them. Hey, I can tell you that it has been a life-changing experience for me personally, but I have seen it change my family, my immediate family, because as you know, my wife. I ordered hers too, so we got all of those results, and we got them all right before my birthday, and it was revealed on your platform. So we've been enjoying that journey, and to see it matriculate throughout her family and see her explain it has been a blessing, because now they're making a connection again amongst her family, right? So it's information, and it's powerful just to see that we have something in common, but the information that we're able to receive from knowing where we come from is I mean, you can't put a price on it. You just can't. You can't. So, Dr. Paige, I gotta say, I love everything that you have done. I love what you are doing for the community, and trust me, you know, I'm always on watching, listening. And chiming in, so I'm trying to be the best ambassador for African ancestry that I can be.
You are doing an excellent job. Sometimes I'm like, wait, I haven't seen the unapologetic hustle come through here yet. What's going on?
Right.
You and others, you're part of a tight knit group of folks who hold it down for us. And I just want to say, as a business owner, that's so important that we do that for each other.
Absolutely.
That we go in and we speak up on behalf, because I can't answer all the questions. I don't know all the issues, but I have a community of people who can. And
right.
We have to do this thing together.
Absolutely.
Thank
Absolutely. You. Yeah. So again, Dr. Paige, I definitely thank you for your time. Is there any final things you would like to tell the listeners, or have them something they should know about the DNA process or the trips?
Yeah, I would like to close with this, and I'm inspired by the 16-year-old who's there in the studio. Listen, I think it's so important that we walk around with our heads held high and with our spirits even higher. And when you know that you come from people like the Crew people of Liberia, who were so defiant that they were actually chosen to navigate the ships because it was easier for the enslavers to have them, close than to capture them. And that that the Crew were expert navigators who were excellent at navigating uncharted waters in the Atlantic. Then nobody can tell you that you shouldn't fight, that you shouldn't stand for what you believe in, or that you shouldn't take a path that you think is an important path for you. And so that's why this work is so important. You don't have to use DNA to get there. Talk to your family. Read books. Black books are at the top of the New York Times bestseller list now, because all these white folks are reading our books. So read the books. Our history is in the books. And just do whatever you can to feel better about who you are, because we come from the best continent on the planet. We invented everything, and there's absolutely no reason for us to ever feel ashamed about anything that's done to us.
Absolutely.
That's what I'm going to say.
Absolutely. Powerful words. again, for those of you that are just tuning in, my guest today was none other than Dr. Gina Paige of African Ancestry. You know, if you wanna make that change, you wanna make that connection, go to AfricanAncestry.com. Put in the code HUSTLE. Order your DNA kit. They have pendants. They have all kinds of stuff. Become a part of the African Ancestry online community. There's wealth of knowledge. I'm in there every day, learning something about my ancestry. So, you know, make the journey back so we can stand together and push forward stronger. So, understanding what our traits, our mindsets, our actions, they derive from the people that we're looking to reach back and see, make that connection with, right? So there's some mannerisms that we have naturally because of our genetics. Dr. Paige just spoke about the crew people and how they were excellent navigators, right? So those of you that have that background or that DNA, help us navigate through this life and this situation so we can push for some actionable change in this current situation. We got one final question, Dr. Paige. The young you got the 16-year-old up on his feet. So,
how you doing, Dr. Paige?
I'm great.
So my question is, what you're studying and what you're doing, how does it affect the equality problems that we're having today, right now?
So what the work that we're doing is fundamental. It's at the root. We are helping people to feel good about who they are and to recognize that they don't have to stand for what we're experiencing these days. We don't have to. When you know who you are, when you know what the people who came before you were capable of doing, then you know what you can do. None of this is new. Everything that's happening right now has happened before. And we have come through so much worse. Imagine being in the belly of a slave ship with people you don't know for months on end with no food, no water, no sanitation, no air, no light, disease, every horrible thing, the most horrible atrocity known to man. We came through that. We're the descendants of people who came through that. And so that's why knowing where you're from and where you come from gives you a very firm, strong foundation to weather what we're going through now.
Right.
Absolutely. That's some words for you. Some words for you. So, again, for those of you just tuning in, my guest today has been Dr. Gina Paige, co-founder and president of African Ancestry. But as you know, I'm your boy, Marcus Stone, host of the Unapologetic Hustle. We're powered by Fishbowl Radio Network. Dr. Paige, thank you. Thank you for your time. I know that you have some other engagements today, but I'll close with this. Be the change that you want to see. Activate your hustle, but also know that we have to understand who we are so that we can live the purpose for what we're to be, right? So order your kit, put in the code HUSTLE to get your discount. But let's continue to band together to solidify the movement. Let's not just raise our voices, but let's make sure that we come up with actionable changes so that it does not happen. Let's set the path for the generations to come. I may not see the changes. Dr. King didn't see the changes in his day, but we are doing this for the generations to come so that they don't have to live with the changes that are going on right now. So be the change you want to see in your community. Stay positive, stay humble, but most importantly, hustle unapologetically. Till next time, I'm your boy, Marcus Stone. We'll see you.
Thanks, Dr. Paige.
Of course. Hey, can you tell what's the 16-year-old's name? Can I come to? Let me see your face.
Come to the camera. You got my anthem cute. All right, here we go. Can you see him?
Hey,
Hi.
what's your name?
Ezra?
Ezra. Nice to meet you, Ezra. I want to send you a book. Can you guys text me your address so I can send you a book?
Yes.
Yep.
Do you read, Ezra? I don't want to send you the book if you don't read.
Every now and then, yes.
Every now and then. Okay, well, this is a really important book for you to read, and I think you'll enjoy reading it. Okay.
I'll get it to you, Dr. Page, for sure.
All right. Cool.
Hey, until next
Well,
time.
thank you, Marcus.
Not a
for
problem.
having me.
I'll be tuning in. I'm your boy, Marcus Stone, host of the Unapologetic Hustle. Tune in every Saturday, 12 to 1 Central, right here on Fishbowl Radio Network. Till next time.
Oh, I thought
Yes,
we were done.
sir.
We weren't done.
They tell me all the time.
We're done now, Dr. Page.